Do you want me to get into like why I feel that way?
Yeah, go for it.
I had a near death experience in 2018, and I could like spend 10 minutes or so talking about this, but I don't want to like use the whole time to talk about this because I feel like we're going to talk about so many good things. But this near death experience in 2018 happened when I had 80 blood clots in my lungs. So I didn't just have one blood clot, I had 80. So I had 50 in one lung, 30 in the other, and it was a result of my double jaw surgery that I just had to have when my mouth was fully developed because I had an underbite. And then my lower jaw was more towards my left, upper jaw was way more towards my right. So they had to fix that. That's just how I was born. And the surgery itself went really well. I had the top 10, jaw surgeon in the nation do it. He was an older guy. He had done a lot, like thousands and thousands and thousands of surgeries. And I recovered fine after. I'm getting into the long story. I don't want to get into the long story. Um, so I recovered fine, but then the same day that I got my bands taken off because I had braces and my mouth was banded shut with my like on my braces. That same day I had this pulmonary embolism, like where I was just in this excruciating pain. And
Mhm.
so we went to the emergency room and they ended up like, so they tested me. I'm going to just tell the fucking story because I can't escape it and it's too good. Okay, so my mom and I went in there and we're sitting in the ER and they're running all these tests and they run tests for like an hour and a half. And I have this pain that's in the middle of my back that winds to like my chest right here. And it was on the left side for some reason. I don't know why. It wasn't on both.
Mm.
But it was just this awful feeling. I could barely breathe. And I have a high pain tolerance, right? Like I just went through a double jaw surgery. They just broke both my jaws. And I like my mouth was bandaged shut for like 10 days. And I
Mm.
was on a chair and I have been through a lot. And so I like to think I have a high pain tolerance. But they were running these tests and they couldn't find out what the hell was wrong with me. And then my doctor was like, um, let's let's just see if she has like any blood clots. And I was not the typical candidate. Like, and at the time I was studying exercise science. I wanted to be a
Mm.
personal trainer. I've always valued like health and wellness and stuff. But at that time in my life, it was like top tier. Like I was just like crazy about it. I lived and breathed it. And so I was not the typical candidate for a blood clot.
Mm.
And so he ends up running this test. The only reason he runs this test was because he previously lost someone to a blood clot
Mm.
because they're really hard to diagnose. They're really hard to catch. I think it was like 2 months before this, he lost someone. And so he's like, let's just see. And it turned out that I had 80 in my lungs. So they put me on morphine and then blood thinners and I was in the hospital, like just in the hospital bed. And I remember waking up that next morning and just feeling like brand new, like I could finally talk. I wasn't in this excruciating pain and I could finally like eat actual food because I had been eating through like a syringe, living
Mm.
shakes and smoothies and stuff. And so I remember my little sister Hallie, she's like the chef of the family. She made me like my favorite mac and cheese and she brought it into the hospital and I could finally eat and I was cracking jokes and like all these things. And then that night the pain came back, but it came back 10 times worse than before, which I didn't even think was possible. At this time, my mom like called both my little sisters in and then my dad in and we just our doctor, or my doctor, I should say, said that we should get me in an ambulance as soon as possible and take me to like a bigger hospital because like this was like a freak thing for it to like come.
Yeah.
And so I just remember this distinct moment and I was laying in the hospital bed and my family was around me and my mom and my sisters are like crying. Well, I think my mom was trying to fight it back, but I can tell when she's about to break. And I think she actually had to leave the room when she got like that, but my sisters were just like around me and they were crying. And I was just like, holy shit, like I'm 19 years old at this moment and I'm like, is this what it feels like to die? Because we never really know what that feels like. And they always say people who have these near death experiences, they always
Mm.
that like your life flashes before your eyes. And that's what happened to me, but it wasn't like these vivid flashbacks from all stages of my life, but it was more so like the emotions that I had felt within every stage of my life. Like
Mm.
I felt the pain and the love and the joy and just like heartache and stuff. And I felt all of that. And I felt this overwhelming feeling of gratitude for everything I had lived. And it was like, I had lived everything I needed to in that moment. Like I felt this feeling of peace that I had never felt before. Like I was okay if I died right then and there because I felt like I lived everything that I needed to. And then on top of that, and more importantly, I felt this immense feeling of love for everyone I had ever met, even the people who had hurt me or the people I met on an airplane and I would never talk to again or something. And then myself and to God and to life. And I just felt like this overwhelming feeling of love. And so that's what I'm trying to share with this world
Mm.
and everything that I do. And so right now I'm a life coach slash healer. And so I do one-on-one coaching and then I'm hosting healing circles and I have my 2 books out and I have some guides out as well.